Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out, join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.
Good morning and welcome. Today is Friday, December 6th, and tomorrow is December 7th. It's a day not to forget. It's a day that was horrible in our life, and I don't want us to forget December 7th. I want to welcome you all to this podcast, How to Fight CPS with Bob Pace. It's a live podcast, broadcast on YouTube around the world. I use the StreamYard application. And I'm here as a loving father, a dad, a friend who wants to help you all with your CPS case. Your children probably have been brutally taken from you. Or maybe you did something that was inappropriate and it can be corrected. Unfortunately, you deal with a government agency that's gone rogue. And it's hard because families are broken up, as the case of my family. Welcome, Leica Herzenberg from South Africa. And hello, families, yes. I care about you guys as my own family. I do this show twice a day, 7 days a week for the past year. Over 700 shows I've done. And I've talked to everybody I could to help them. And with my faith in God, I've been trying to help. You guys go through so much heartache with your children. And you try to work with a government system, no matter what country you're in, whether you're in the United States or South Africa. The countries that I've talked to, like Bangladesh and India, or even in the Middle East, with the turmoil that's going up there right now. And of course, Africa. I've had several countries in Africa. And Africa is a unique place. There's really unique cultures going on. And of course, Europe. Europe's the old world. Europe's been going around for a long time. We have other societies that have gone on for a long time, but they seem to have been very quiet. Now, Leica says she took a break, which I didn't see you, but that's no worries. I knew you're okay. And it's hard sometimes being on this show twice a day. It is. It's a lot that you have to get up because you want to it's hard. It really is. Okay, good. Good. Yeah, that's fine. Like, I love to have you on the show. I love to have you on the show. You know that. No, I don't have a cold. what it is that I go check out the surf every morning at 4 a.m. my time. It's called the Dawn Patrol. And right now we're having a winter in California, which is really unheard of because we usually don't have much of winter. So it's that nasal thing that I have with me in the ocean. Maybe the water comes up through the noses or something in there. As you go older, it gets harder to surf and paddle and go into that water because the water is about 50 degrees or 49 degrees. It's like, what is it? Almost 0 Celsius. I mean, it's cold. And it's all right to paddle around stuff. And then you come back, but you greet the new world. It's a ritual that I've done for a long time. And maybe it's a different perspective you've seen of me, Leica. But I think it's nice. I want my gills to get wet because I'm an ocean person. I love the sea. And it's like, it gives me life, And my friends are out there, the dolphins, lots of dolphins. And of course, many kinds of fish out there, and sea lions, and the seabirds, the seagulls and stuff. It's really neat. The world wakes up at 4 a.m. People are still sleeping in bed or getting ready for work and stuff. But it's the way I greet the world every day. People have their own rituals, their own things they do. But, fighting CPS takes a lot out of you. And I've been fighting it for 15 years. And every day it amazes me when I see new articles or new stories or hear new stories about our children that aren't being protected or the children that are taken away needlessly from families that don't need to be taken away, where they could help the families. Now, you heard Vincent Davis talk about his podcast tomorrow. That's going to be a tough one because it is December 7th. I mean, a lot of people are not born. I wasn't born when the start of World War II took. I wasn't born in 1941. But my dad had fought 3 wars. And he expressed a lot out there because a lot of people are fighting for countries so we could stay at home. And people question why the United States goes everywhere. And it's because we want to protect democratic freedom. And we don't want to have to fight the war in our country. Good day, Grace. Glad to see you in my room. We have Leica from South Africa who's talking. Leica says, always when I stand in front of the ocean, I become so sad. I always want to start to cry. I never look too long at the ocean. Well, I hope the next time you see the ocean that you get a smile from me across from, I guess, California to South Africa. I don't know if you've been down to Durban or been down to the Cape or St. Francis. There's a lot of surfing breaks in South Africa. I've been there in the old days. I've been there over 25 times to South Africa. It's a beautiful place. I love the picturesque of Johannesburg. I love the jungles of Africa. I've taken a safari when I was real young. It's quite interesting to go there and see the jungles and so forth. But I don't want you to cry because the ocean to me is a happy place. It makes me happy. I just need to go down to it more often. I need to visit that sea and immerse myself more often in the ocean. It's very refreshing to have that salt water on your face and in your tongue. It helps rejuvenate yourself because fighting CPS is the most horrible thing that I can imagine anybody going through. It's worse than doing your taxes or fighting other criminal matters or something like that. But I hope that the ocean puts a smile on your face, because when you look at that beautiful sea, each wave comes in. There's no two same waves, you know, and the animals that live in the ocean or down at the sea, you know, they all find something in the ocean. The little shorebirds that are eating the little polychaetes in the sand, and they run around so fast. The kiwis, the snipes, and the different kinds of shorebirds. The seal that may be on the beach barking or laying in the sun, getting his body all warmth. Or even the killer whales that are roaming the seas for food. They are a beautiful dolphin. The killer whales are a dolphin. I used to train killer whales a long time ago. I had two of them, Orky and Corky, in Marineland of the Pacific at Palos Verde, before SeaWorld bought up the oceanarium and stole the killer whales because they needed breeding captivity. I've had an interest in life. Those were my younger years, because I'm 75 now and I'm sharing a lot of my life. And I'm sharing the stories about foster care and about how to fight the child protection system. I call that government entity that was declared by our Congress, and I know in other countries it's parliaments or whatever the government agency is, but it's supposed to be a government entity that is supposed to protect our children from neglect and abuse. And it doesn't seem to do that. It doesn't seem to do that. You know, whether you are in the Philippines or Indonesia or Japan or the United States or all these other countries, there is an entity that's supposed to protect the children. And in our country, it's for neglect and abuse. Neglect and abuse. And so many children every day are going unreported with neglect and abuse. I have one mother that comes on the show regularly, that's talked on the show. Her name is Faye Manley. She's a young woman. She's in her 40s, but when she was a child, she was brought up in foster care, in and out of foster care 5 times. And her mom was very abusive. In fact, her mom tried to steal her children when she had children. And it's sad. It really is sad. But I hope, with my background and my experience, my 15 years of fighting CPS can help you. I'm not a lawyer, but I do know how to look up things. And I use Google a lot, and the AI of Google. And there's so much wealth of information on there. So much wealth. I need to catch up, Leica. You're talking to me. Well, you should look in along, because you'll see every wave is different. And maybe in the distance, you'll see hope. And the cloud formation over the ocean is so fantastic. There's one place in South Africa that has a beautiful mountaintop and a beautiful city. I think that's called Johannesburg. I'm probably rusty about city, or is it called Cape Town? But South Africa is an interesting place. A friend of mine was in a surfing contest, about 4 years ago. And he was at this surfing break, and they had a contest for board. It was the finals, and we had 2 Australians in the finals. And I was watching it being broadcast. And it was hard, because all of a sudden in the ocean, the guy that was competing disappeared behind a wave. We didn't know what had happened. And we saw a fin. It was a dorsal fin of a great white. And we thought it was end. But this guy is quite a character in Australia. He fended off the killer whale. I mean, the shark, the great white. He rolled off his board. It got tangled with the great white. The great white took it down, broke the leash, and he hit the shark on the nose enough to scare him away. His only damages was a small ding on his board, but he was quickly picked up by jet skis. All of a sudden, being interviewed by a friend of mine in Santa Cruz, a young boy I've known since 7 that is now fully grown and does that. So they're interviewing him. He was all right. They rescued the other competitor on a jet ski, and both of them were put in a boat, and then the boat was out searching for the great white. They called off the event. It was quite a story to tell. His mom was watching. His mom in Australia, the Gold Coast, was watching, and it was a horrific thing for a mother to experience. What the ocean can change so quick. Anyway, a year later, he came back. He was in the finals, and he won the event. That shark didn't faze him. So the ocean does have dangers, but the ocean also has a lot of life, and it can rejuvenate yourself. It's immersion. It's like a baptism. You know, when Jesus used to baptize people and immerse them in water, that's what surfing is like. People really don't realize that what surfing does is that every time you immerse yourself in the ocean, you push down on that board to go underneath a wave, and you come up the other side, and you blow the air through your nostrils. It's a feeling that I cannot explain that is so nice. It really is. Leica has something that she is not too happy about. Let's see what Leica has to say here. Leica says, the child protection system here in South Africa are extremely mad because the judge decision is that my child must come back. Of course, the CPS, the child protection system, is mad because they lose money. People got to realize the only purpose why CPS does what it does is for the money. It's $1 trillion business in the United States. I don't know how much money they make on the children and the families in South Africa, but it's $1 trillion business. And it's all about money is why they do the things. They lie. They're not transparent. They go back on their words. They build you up. They take away your children unnecessary. They weren't in danger. 99% of the people on here, over 600 people, have said that they took my children. There's no danger. They want that money, and they'll lie to take your child. And I have rule number 3 that talks about taking your child. You should never take your child unless it's extreme danger. I'd love to see that documentary, Leica. I'd love to see it. And thank you very much for talking to me this morning. It's much appreciated. And for the rest of you, I've been putting up a message of how they interact in this podcast. The first way is you found my room, and there are emojis you can place. Send me stars, check the follow button, and if you want to be notified when I'm on here because I want you to come here because it's family here. We are a family. We are strangers, maybe because we don't see each other talk, but we come here, we share things, we help each other, and it's a worldwide help. It isn't just in one little part, in one small part. It's bringing the whole world together because CPS needs to be controlled to what the purpose of them is supposed to do, protect our children from neglect and abuse, not alienate our children from us parents, not traffic our children into foster care. Foster care is not the solution. I know there's a lot of good foster care out there, as well as a lot of good CPS out there, but they're so far and few. I've only had 3 people out of the 600 people talk to me that were social workers or foster care people. And they were beautiful people. They were kind stuff. They were shocked when I told them things that were happening. So I know there's other people that listen to me. I know there's social workers that listen to me here. Now, besides, texting me a message and I put all the notes you're supposed to do there, there's also, you can be a guest on my podcast. Let me see here. To be a guest on my podcast, I put it up on the screen. I don't think I need to read that so much to you like time and time, but I have these messages that I've created that is the third way you interact with this podcast, to be a guest. So what that means is that I have space for 9 people. And you all can be like me, talking and helping each other to be a guest. All you do is email my show producer, and I want to thank Grace very much for what she does. Her email is grace@vincentwdavis.com. And she's from another part of the world who's helping out with this podcast. She's found a niche, and along with me, she makes this podcast run smoothly and helps me with any glitches I may have. So just email her that you want to be on one of my show times. Now, I'm on 7 days a week, twice a day. I come on at 10 o'clock in the morning, Pacific Standard Time, and 7 o'clock at night, Pacific Standard Time. And I do this regardless of holidays. There are times that I sometimes come on earlier. And that's to accommodate events in my life or events that are in Mr. Davis's life, who's my attorney. And tomorrow, Saturday, I would like to come on at 8 o'clock so that my show's done by 9. So Vincent's show at 9:30 can start with some of the members of my podcast joining his podcast. But I'm trying to get permission from my producer, Grace, about coming on at 8 o'clock in the morning. Now, Sunday I do come on at 8. It's a long-standing time on Sunday because I go to church. I believe there's a God. And I believe that nature and my Lakota Sioux background, the Indian background, go together well. So my love of the ocean, my love of the Native American Indians, the first immigrants to come to North America, their way of life, how they respect the land and the people. And I had that experience. I was up in Rosebud Reservation, where my great full-blooded grandmother is from. She was a Lakota Sioux from the Rosebud Reservation. I spent some time helping out, and it's right next door to another reservation that is the poorest areas of the United States. It's been so hard with the Native American Indians, especially with their children in foster care and in CPS's hands. In fact, they had to enact a law called the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act of 1978. And that law protects Indian children. But it took them 100 years. In the 1870s, the Indians were rounded up after so many broken promises and so many tears on the trail of tears, that they were forced to go on reservations and forced to do, to be farmers, which a lot of them weren't farmers. You have to understand, the Lakota Sioux people lived off buffalo and the herds that wander. And they moved. They were Plains Indians. They followed the herd. what they got besides the meat, the hides, or the clothing and stuff. So anyway, today in 1978, they passed this act that says that the child protection system must turn Indian children over to the tribe if they are registered with one of the 548 federal tribes as recognized. And Lakota Sioux, the Rosebud Lakota Sioux is one of them. Now they're turned over to an Indian reservation to be placed in the Indian family for reunification purposes, not to be adopted. And this counter messes things up because in 1997, President Clinton signed the Incentive Act, which says that CPS must put the children in foster care faster than reunification. And they give them thousands of dollars for doing so. Thousands of dollars. So that conflicts with a lot of things with CPS. And it was so bad for 100 years, the Indian children were constantly being adopted out because they're a poor, broken tribe. All the Indian nations, whether it's the Osage in Oklahoma that used to be in Florida that were moved to Oklahoma, whether you're from the Apache or the Comanche or the Chumash in California or the Iroquois, there are so many Indian tribes and so many native Indian people. And they were taken advantage of. And their children were adopted out. So it is a really interesting world that we live in and we bring up there. Now, I've digressed maybe a little bit different of a format, instead of talking about rules and how they interact or about this case. I tried to cover a lot of things and stuff. And I hope you find this interesting because I can talk a lot about life skills. You know, that's another area that can help out CPS's life skills. We need to think about re-educating or having it in the time that a child goes to school, whether it's preschool or preppy kindergarten or first grade or middle school, you know, or even high school and college. They should always learn something in school besides the academics, besides the arts. They should learn something called life skills. These are things of how to do every day in life. No one is born with a manual about how to function or how to function with life. I mean, you buy a car, it comes with an owner's manual. You buy anything, it comes with a manual that tells you how to do things. But life skills you can learn. Now, certain life skills are better at later parts of your life. I think dating is a good one for high school. I think talking to strangers is a good one for elementary school. Bullying that takes place in elementary school. My kids were bullied. It's interesting how much abuse that a teacher can make on a kid. In fact, one of my boys growing up was told by a substitute teacher that you couldn't get a job at McDonald's. That's how bad bullying can be. So we need life skills of learning about life, learning about dating and marriage and divorce, learning about the child protection system, how to be careful of the system, learning about how to balance your checkbook, about credit cards, about checking accounts, about your taxes, even things like sewing and cooking. And boys need that skill as well as girls. You're going to be alone out there. You're going to grow up at 18 and be out on your own. If a button comes off the shirt, you won't have mom or dad to sew it back on. So you have to learn those skills. My grandmother used to teach me how to work her sewing machine. It's an old Gibson sewing machine. It was a Singer. And you had to press a pedal and turn the wheel and stuff. And so I learned sewing from my grandmother. And the schools at one time did have some life skills. I remember in high school you had to carry a pillow around to pretend what it is to like to have an extra few pounds in your stomach bloated when you're pregnant, because guys don't get pregnant. Girls do. The trouble is guys and girls learn about life way too soon. They learn before they know about things like condoms and those kinds of things. They learn about that. Also, as a child growing up in foster care, they're abused by other children. They're abused by the foster care parents. The foster care children abuses them. So I'm changing the wording every so often here so that you know what to do on this podcast. There are 4 ways, and as I said, being in this room is 1. 2, texting a message. 3 is to be a guest. And 4 is that you can call in. Now, you can call in right now to my phone and talk. I don't like to do all the talking in the show. It makes me sleepy to sit there and talk minute after minute, minute after minute. So I appreciate if you guys would call in at 626-698-0990. That's a live phone. That's my office phone. We use StreamYard. The company does. The law firm does. And it's a software application called Vonage. Now, a lot of you call me before my show time or after. I can't answer the phone, and I'm sorry I can't. I'm only allowed to answer the phone during my show times. So please call me during my show times. And this is your opportunity. This 4th way is to get your questions, to discuss your case. The other day I had 2 ladies on that were very dear ladies, that young girls, really, I shouldn't call them, maybe they are ladies, I don't know if called old or something like that. I think of girls maybe as like teenagers or young adults, and ladies as mature girls in their 30s or 40s. And then there's the grandmothers who have had children, who now their children are having children. Now we're halfway through my show, and I've had Leica from South Africa very graciously place a lot of comments. And I would encourage the rest of you to try to leave a comment or maybe to call in. Because one thing, if you call in and you talk on my phone, or if you're a guest on my show and talk on the show, you will qualify for a 15-minute free consultation with Mr. Davis. Now, Mr. Davis said that he's been doing this for 35 years. He's been fighting what's called dependency law. That's what the child protection system uses. And what I call the child protection system is every agency in every county, every state, worldwide, that goes to help out children. Now, one thing is, CPS is also supposed to help out families in needs. It's a branch of social services. They're supposed to provide you food and shelter and clothing and transportation. Furthermore, they're supposed to provide education for your children yourself, like parenting classes. They're supposed to provide you medical benefits for your children yourselves. And on top of that, they're supposed to help you with a job. It's all based on income. They're trying to help you. And a lot of you, including myself, are low income. I once had a job. I lost my job through fault of my own in 2010. And I'd already been working for 45 years. As I told you earlier, I was a marine animal trainer. I've been a manager of a seafood restaurant called the Chart House. I've been a marine biologist, a working science on board the research vessel Valero, 110-foot purseiner, with a group of technicians doing environmental reports. I've been a civil engineer for a long time, working in sales, estimating jobs, $100 million jobs, generating sales of $150 million a year, working as a project manager, running these jobs, also working as an inspector, inspecting jobs, working for cities as an inspector. I have a wealth of background in civil engineering. And unfortunately, when you become old, they don't like to hire you. And so at age 60, when I lost my job, it's been really hard. Now, I have gotten a job a couple of them, but they've not lasted long because they find out about my involvement in the child protection services. So it's really hard for me to get work, and I'm looking for work, a full-time career job again. Because I once had a beautiful home. I had to sell it to hire an attorney. I had to sacrifice my home that I worked 45 years for. But I'd wanted my kids back, and my kids were taken in 2015. I've been harassed by child protection services for 5 years prior to that, from 2010 to 2015. And it was all by a layman. My in-laws, my wife's mother and father and 3 sisters and brothers would call in once a week and make false claims. That's a bad part of CPS. You see, there are hundreds, maybe lots of reports that go in. They're used because they're trying to get back at a neighbor. A person doesn't like the dog bark, so they accuse their neighbor of doing something with children. They don't even have children. Or their yard is overgrowing and they don't have children. And they make accusations that they're letting their child run wild and they don't have children. These lay people do not know how to make complaints or how to do it. It should be in writing and signed by the individual. It should be made so that the individual is responsible for the statement, because what CPS does, they always believe what the lay people say. You are guilty in CPS's eyes until you're proven innocent. Every other court of law, you're innocent until you're proven guilty. If you hold up a bank or you shoot somebody, like last week, we've had a hitman who maliciously shot a 50-year-old man. A 50-year-old, that's young to me, who happens to be the CEO of United Healthcare, which is my insurance. And we don't know the reasons. We have not caught the man. But it was caught on camera in a very big city, New York. And it was done broad in front of everybody. So if people had life skills all through, preschool and elementary school and middle school and high school and college, they learned so much. And they probably would learn things about drugs. We have bad cases of drugs, but I think it's a lack of education. When I was in junior high, they didn't have middle school, but I was in 7th grade. And I saw movies about drugs and how it affected the body. And the thing was, I was an athlete. I'm a former football player in high school and college. I played rugby in college. I love playing soccer. I played baseball and soccer in high school along with football. And surfing was always, so I did not want to put something that would affect my body. Yes, I did partake in drinking socially, but not to the point where it became messing up my life. And now I don't drink. I may occasionally once a year have a glass of red wine, or my favorite hard drink is tequila. But when you have life skills presented and you're educated, maybe you'll think twice about what drugs does to your body. What drugs does to your body. So I really am a strong supporter of life skills that will help out us in CPS because we need to know about how to fight them. And um, well, I'm sorry, your phone is giving you problems, Leica. Um, don't panic. You can ask your carrier to make the connection. We are the country 01. The area code is 626. That's like a city code in other countries. And then, well, it's a state code. 626 is a part of the state that they're broken up. Hey, you guys. Sorry for the quick interruption, but my handsome son and his beautiful girlfriend just came in. It's so nice to have family around here. I used to have a family of 8. I've been married I have 42 years of marriage. Not all with the same woman, but my last wife has been 32 years. And we have 6 children. But CPS broke my family apart. They destroyed my family. My older kids don't talk anymore since CPS intervened. There are 2 girls and 2 boys. That are out on their own. One's in the 40s. The oldest son, is in his 40s. The girls are in their 30s. The girl there moved out at 25. But I have 3 younger children. And they were destroyed by CPS. In fact, one of them is not back with us. She was stolen. And I mean, she was stolen bad. It's so hard to realize that you create a child out of love. You raise the child, you change their diapers, you bathe them, you take them for walks and strolls. And at one time, I was very fortunate to have a great job that paid for season passes at Disneyland. So we had Disneyland 2 or 3 times a week if we wanted to. Is when you buy a season pass and the unlimited season pass, you go to both parks and it's enough entertainment. And the kids loved it. But when you lose a job, there's so much you do lose. It is so hard. It's so hard. But my 3 kids were trafficked or kidnapped and alienated. Luckily, I hired Mr. Davis, who I thank time and time again for being my attorney. He got my kids back. Except my daughter. She happened to be tricked by the social worker. Social workers are evil. They want your children and want them in there until they're 18 in foster care because they generate that $1 trillion money. It's all about money. And it's sad. But my daughter, who was 12 at the time, was really confused because when you're in CPS, as the Child Protection's hands, they don't keep your children up to date to what the parents are doing. And they don't keep the parents up to date how the children are doing. and the children are molested and raped and harmed in foster care. They're bullied by the foster care kids. Now, I'm not saying all foster carers are like that. I'm not saying all CPS are bad. But there's even a case where a child of 9, a girl, was asked to remove her top so that a guy that was investigating, a CPS worker, could take pictures, I guess, of maybe some bruises or whatnot. I think that guy was a pedophile. But I can't say that because that's wrong, I guess. You can't accuse people being a pedophile. But he was fired. That was not the SOP. First of all social workers need to go in twos when they're investigating. They need to go in twos because I hate to say it, social workers lie. You can Google it. Lying social workers. There's so many lies that they lie about because there's no punishment to social workers. Social workers are never held accountable for their actions. They're never held accountable for their actions. They can do pretty much what they can do, and no one's going to stop them. They have a director, but the director's cahoots with the money. I tried to fight the CPS, the Child Protection System in Orange County, California. And I met the director, who has his own office building, not his workers, but he himself. That's 14 stories high. It looked like the Taj Mahal of India or the Emerald City of Oz. It was a very luxurious place. You can see where the money's being spent. It certainly isn't spent on buying food for the children or helping out mom and dads with clothing or things that we need. This is a hard time at Christmas because families are being torn apart by the child protection system. And you have to be careful out there. You need to have an attorney. You need to keep track of your documents and organize them. You need to say no to social workers. Do not talk to them. Do not talk to the police. Do not answer the door. Do not surrender your children. Careful when you go to urgent care or a medical emergency because there's still the children there. Also, when you have a child, they're taking children. Some cases are so bad that the police and the social worker will walk in without a warrant and demand to have the child still attached to the mother's umbilical cord. Those are horror stories I can tell you about of social workers. There are social workers that put up on their Facebook an ad from 1875. No, 1848. And it said black children for sale. Now, they didn't use the word black because in those days they used the N word, which we cannot say. But they implied that black children were for sale. And she has an ad, a social worker who claims she's a social worker, on her Facebook posts the ad. And one of my colleagues on here called her up. She got her Facebook and talked to her. Why did you put the ad? She was a black woman. Well, because it's still going on. Black children are still being sold. I was trying to send a message, but that was the wrong message. That was the wrong message. Going back to my daughter and why it really hurts me so bad is that one of my wife's family member, her sister and her husband were trying to adopt our daughter. We were against it. We didn't want to break up our family. And there's nothing we did that was that drastic. The family had to be taken apart. The children were all in school. The children had their own bedrooms, own bathrooms. It was a $2 million home. They weren't in any danger. Anyway, Vincent Davis, who's been my attorney, was asking a social worker in court about my wife's sister and her husband, what kind of parents are they? Also, if they had any problems, domestic violence. And of course, the social worker said, oh, they're wonderful parents, and there's no problem with domestic violence. Well, Vincent said, well, wait a minute. I have 30 reports here in my folder, my briefcase. He pulls them out, and he started to read them. And it said extreme physical violence on such and such a date. And this was repeated over and over. And he read each one, and the social worker left the courtroom in tears and because she had committed perjury. It's a lawsuit against that social worker. Perjury. You cannot commit perjury. And if you do, you're open to a lawsuit. So later she told me and my wife that you're never going to see your daughter again. That's how revengeful social workers are. You know what she did? She coached and told my 12-year-old daughter what to do and say. She said, you're going to emancipate from your parents because in California, 12 years old, you can divorce your parents. She divorced her mom and dad, her 3 brothers, her 2 sisters, both sets of grandparents, and all her uncles and aunts and cousins. And then she was told to change her name completely. She had a beautiful name. Her middle name was Hanalei, which is my idea of paradise in Kauai. It's a beautiful name. That was gone. And on top of that, she was told to seal her birth certificate that she wasn't born by us parents. That's so that she was getting adopted by a foster care, and they wanted a birth certificate that said that they are the parents. She got another Social Security card, which is against the law. A human being is not allowed to have 2 Social Security cards. That is sad that they were taking advantage of Social Security. The social services was, the CPS system was, child protection. And of course, then she was adopted, and now she's 22 years old. And at Thanksgiving, she invited our 2 sons to her to have Thanksgiving. Our Thanksgiving was ruined. We couldn't have 2 Thanksgiving the same days. So we said we'd have your Thanksgiving, boys, on Monday. So we had a good Thanksgiving on Monday, but it isn't the same. Because our 2 boys wanted to go to meet her foster care parents. And now Christmas is coming, and one of my boys has been invited because they're going to fly him to come back to Ohio with those terrible people that made the false statements. I think that's wrong. So now I'm going to be a family of 3 at Christmas, and we're trying to decide what to do. We're trying to decide what to do for Christmas for a family of 3. My family is getting smaller, but luckily I have a new family in here. For this past year, all of you are like family to me. All of you have stories to say. I've not walked in your moccasins. I've not followed your trail, but I live your trail. I cry and hurt. I pray for you guys with your foster care situations or what you're going through, how your families are torn apart. Now, my podcast has reached the 1 hour, 11 o'clock mark. It looks like I started a couple minutes late. because my clock shows about 5 more minutes. But I must adhere to my times with my podcasts. And I've talked a lot about a lot of things different. Um, I've tried to go over my rules. I've tried to talk about how they interact and stuff, but I want you all to know that I care about you and I want to help you. You're like family, all of you. And every day, twice a day, I get up for this podcast. At times, sometimes I don't want to. And at times, I'm emotionally stressed or tired. I too am struggling fighting CPS and trying to rebuild my family, rebuild my life, to get my life in order. But I hope that you appreciate what I share with you all, that maybe there's something that you've heard that will help you in your case. And I hope next time you have a list of questions, because I have a lot of topics. I have over 100 topics I can talk about that I've looked up. Besides the ICWA, the Indian Child Welfare Act. I mean, I have motions and so forth of how to protect and how to get attorneys and everything. But I do got to sign off. And following my sign off will be another message for Vincent Davis. Please join his podcast tomorrow at 9:30. You get all your questions may be answered, some of them. But he's live. He is a real dependency attorney. So please tune in at 9:30 tomorrow. And so this is going to be Bob Pace signing off. God bless you all. And I'll see you tonight, Friday night at 7 p.m.
Hi, I'm attorney Vincent Davis, and I've been fighting CPS for over 35 years. Through my years of experience, I've gained invaluable insights that I'm ready to share with you. If you're a parent or a caregiver or a relative, we need to talk. I'm offering a new opportunity for you to speak with me on a one-on-one basis. Ask me any questions, and I'll provide you with the insight you need to take steps in your CPS case. Members get everything they need to gain confidence and the knowledge that they need to support necessary to truly fight back. And as a special thank you for attending, I have a special offer just for you. Don't miss out. Join us, and let's take that next step together. I'll see you at the question and answer event.